So, this is a long 9-part documentary on the Civil War, which you're about to undertake. It's an epic piece of history. It's in itself, this production is history. You can always tell a country's strength. You can always tell its traditions and its history by what it went through and how it changed and how it struggled, by how long it's lasted. Our country, United States, is considered to be a baby country in a sense when you compare it to the other civilizations that we know about in our history books, the Roman history, the Greek history, the Chinese dynasties, um, India. India is perhaps the longest history. And there's several in the Middle East, the Egyptian, the Iran civilization. Those go back, way back, and they have a strong history. And people like to talk about it. They're proud of where they're from. So back in the day, 1990, I was living in Mexico, and I returned, and the show had happened. And it was one of those events in which our whole country was mesmerized by. Most people, even people who weren't interested in history, even people who were children who were had other things to do, sports or whatnot, hobbies, they would sit down and watch this as a family. Ken Burns, the Civil War. It was his first, but it was an epic documentary that on Sunday nights on KCET or PBS station, whatever that was, everyone sat down and watched, and some people would watch it again. I remember my father would go into the library and get books on the Civil War and biographies of the personalities that he had learned about from the documentary. But it was quite something. It was quite impressive because you could talk to people. You'd be on the bus stop or you could be anywhere talking to anyone, and people would be talking about the Ken Burns documentary. And it reminds me of the story that was told about the series in India called the Mahabharata, or otherwise pronounced as the Mahabharata, which was a 16-part, and each episode was 3 hours long. And it was played every day without stop, even Saturday and Sundays. And it was for 3 hours. And it was funny, the whole country, not just the northern part where the story took place, but the whole country would stop and watch this for 3 hours. People talked about that. 16 days, the country just stopped, went home, and watched this series. Why is that? It's because it was their history. The Mahabharata is their most ancient history of India that was documented. Scholars would call it myth, but in India, people know better. Anyway, it's so old that, yeah, it becomes kind of like that, a myth. But it's the same thing. It draws people in because they want to know about their history. They want to know who they are, how they're connected to what country they live in, what time they live in, and how it relates to these things that went on in the past.